It's not required.
Okay.
We haven't had one for a while, so
Yeah, I don't know why, they just told me one day that.
we don't need it.
Yeah, don't worry about the sign machine.
Am I in the right spot?
Yep. Well, I have 858 is what I have.
Oh, Bob, I've been thinking about you every time I see that boat race ads. You gonna be here for it?
Yeah, we're letting them use the property over on San Carlos Island.
Oh,
and
on Main Street
also,
stage.
The old Ballard Oil Company, but Key West Express just bought that, so it's owned by Key West Express now. So they're gonna set up 2 cranes is the plan, and they'll crane half the boats in on Ballard and half on the Oyster Bay property.
Still got your foot in it.
Well, that's all I'm doing, you know.
I know Greg isn't here if you want to move over.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you want to, if you don't have to.
Yeah, I can go over here, that way I can kick Ted.
Yeah, he may need it.
So,
Well, I hope they, are successful. It's a lot of work, and they didn't have a whole lot of time to put it on, Yeah, we met once a week for an entire year to be able to put that thing on, and
Whether there's anybody really.
I don't think I printed mine out. They crossed off some stuff and rephrased stuff. Yeah. Well, there isn't much because
Yeah, because it was
because
upstairs.
I mean,
it's sort
somebody who's the liaison between the association, the racing
There is no vote on
association, and the promoter, or?
Kind of like.
not on the minutes because the camera
It's the
stopped.
manager for the operation.
Well,
Well,
that would be, I think his name's Mike,
I need to figure out what we need.
trying to
for
think of
this.
his name, Mike.
From.
Shoot.
Yeah.
He is actually, was it Offshore Professional Association, I think is what it is.
Our clock is on the fritz, but it is 9 o'clock.
It is 9 o'clock, okay? And so we'll go ahead and call to order. I do know that Greg and, did Mike Ratliff ever call in or anything? I know he's out of town because I spoke with his wife 2 days ago.
I will find out.
But if he didn't, I mean, I just want to make it, just a general statement. I know Gregory did, but,
He said that he's still traveling and he won't be
okay, so he did,
Yes.
he did. And we don't know about Bill. He might be caught in traffic. But since we have a quorum, I think we'll go ahead and start. It's 9 o'clock and Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It seems like a long time since we've been here. And it has been. Okay, number 3, public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? We do have another opportunity later. Thank you all for being here. Yep.
Before you run through this real quick, I know you guys have some things formalities, but we do have Mark Kincaid from Coastal Engineering, and I know he's a very busy man. If we could move him up somewhere on the agenda, and I'm sure he would appreciate that.
Why don't we put him in at Mooringfield and Staff Report, which is
Perfect.
just kind of right next almost.
Thank you.
That'd be great. Approval of the minutes. What do we need to do with the minutes since we have incomplete minutes here?
If you all want to nominate somebody, I would be more than happy to sit down with you and we can put our brains together and try to come up with what was discussed at the last meeting and make some general minutes to bring back at your next meeting.
Well, what I will say right now, I do have notes, which I was trying to decide what they meant, but I also made a report to council right after our meeting.
Perfect.
And I have the report to the council, which came from the meeting. So perhaps, I mean, I will volunteer, I guess, to try
Thank
to
you.
do as best we can.
Okay, yep, that's all we're asking.
So I guess right at this point, we don't approve, we'll approve them next meeting, after we have something that's a little more fleshed out, I guess. So we'll skip to Mooringfield and staff report. Do we want to do an Austin report, or do we want to do a Mark Kincaid report first?
I'll go ahead. Basically what's going on in the field, standard pump outs, been busy in the summer. Other than that, right now we have all the inspections of the field going on. I provided guys with a spreadsheet of all the current inspections that we did. We went ahead and took care of the backfield last week, and this week we finished up, I think yesterday, we finished up with the perimeter buoys back there. But I pretty much marked down what's going on with the systems there. This week we're going to go ahead and get to the front field and go ahead and get the inspections done then and replace everything that needs to get done in the front field. We did replace all of the pennant lines, so put them back on for season as well, so that those 50 to 70 ball is available, because we do take them off out of seasons, so the seed growth stays off the pennant line since they're not in use anyway. Let's see what else we did. We're on a delay with the pump outs right now. We're having issues with the engine. We noticed a vibration in it and getting it checked out, so we'll keep you updated on the situation with that. And other than that, it's just been standard procedures throughout the summer and just maintaining the field dock and maintaining any breakage that has happened. We are having an issue at the watering station with washout at the seawall there. We keep filling the hole and stuff like that and things like that. But we're just maintaining it, keep an eye on it, and then keeping things maintained until we get that area rebuilt over there.
That is under state jurisdiction. We have reached out to them, have gotten some pushback, saying who's responsible. And so we'll continue to push back with them.
This is on the water station
This is on
area?
the seawall.
On the seawall,
Yep.
right there.
Yep, where the washout and everything,
Okay.
yep.
Is it because the runoff from the washout, or just in general?
In
drainage?
general, it's a dated seawall. You go out there, you can see it. It needs some TLC.
So other than that, like I said, just maintaining the field as routine.
Any questions for Austin at this time? Okay, Mark?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've got several things to talk about. Probably the first one is Chelsea wants to just tell you that my name is Mark Kincaid with Coastal Engineering.
Hello, Mark.
The first thing that we could talk about is the dinghy dock. The dinghy dock was bid out to contractors, and we have a low bidder. The town has contracted with Kelly Brothers, is that correct? It's
correct.
Yes. So Kelly Brothers has been in touch with Bellingham Marine, who does the concrete floats. Bellingham Marine has a very large backlog of work, and there is probably 10 weeks of 10 to 12 weeks, I think, is what they reported to us before they can get it fabricated, get their dock sections fabricated. They submitted a shop drawing yesterday for approval. We need to verify a couple of measurements on the existing dock. That'll get done today and sent back to Kelly Brothers, who will send it back to Bellingham, and that once that shop drawing is approved, then it gets put into their construction schedule. It's a very small dock in the scheme of things, so hopefully they will be able to up that time frame, because we really like to get that done before all the boats show up and we're working on the dinghy dock. So that's all we know right now. Is the time frame is going to be contingent on Bellingham Marine and their production schedule. The mooring field, there is a big grant that was approved about a year ago now, and Chelsea probably knows better than me, but she's been in communication with the administrator of the grant, and we're just waiting for the approval letter. And is there a contract or an agreement
Yep.
that needs to be
So,
signed?
a couple weeks ago, they said that within 2 to 3 weeks, we would have a contract agreement to take to council for final approval of receipt of that grant. That timeframe is by the end of this week. So if I don't hear from them, I'll be reaching out again for that contract agreement.
Grant is for,
Boring field maintenance and
Maintenance.
replacement of systems,
Okay.
right?
Right. So we have placed an order with the manufacturer of the downlines, and we've placed orders for shackles and buoys and parts. So as soon as the agreement has been made with the big grant, then the town can expend the funds. We'll go ahead and execute all that and start installing everything. And talking with Austin, the plan would be to go start at the west field and replacing with new systems there, pulling out the systems in the west field, cleaning and inspect those in the upland, and then cycling them through all the way back to the east field. So
So it's not based on rotation for the oldest, it's based on location?
it will be, but for this is my opinion, and you guys can weigh in, but I think when people come into the mooring field, it would be nice to have the front field right underneath of the bridge to be nice and shiny and new. Not that we won't clean up things and make it nice in the back field, but the stuff in the front field will be the newest.
well, and that's where most of the people start.
Yes.
I mean, like this time of year, that's where everybody is.
Right,
And there's, yeah.
right.
Makes
So
sense.
that's kind of the game plan that we're working on right now.
Okay.
Excuse me? Oh, the expansion. Last time we talked, we had a conversation about expansion. The town's authorized coastal engineering to start that process. We have put together permit drawings, and we're in the process of finalizing the applications to send to the Corps and the DEP. So that's where we are in that process.
One question. If we get our lease, do we need to immediately install the balls, or can we wait some period of time?
No, there's no timeline on when that has to be initiated.
So we could get it all set and then wait a year to put it in if we want to?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Thank
Or
you.
Yep,
any
there's- the
period of
state's-
time. Yeah, because as I recall, when we were discussing this in May, it was simply for future planning that we were doing this, because we have other things to address before we would necessarily put balls there. But we don't have any time frame after we get the permitting.
No,
that-
there is no requirements that says you have to initiate this. The core permit may be like a 5-year permit, but
You can renew that permit.
we could extend it, the deadline, yes.
Okay.
And I believe I sent you all that diagram in the summer of
I
the
received it
locations.
anyway, yeah.
That was the diagram with 8 on it?
No, we've expanded that to go, I'm sorry. I don't have the
19,
exact-
I think it
Yeah,
was.
I was thinking 18
I
or
couldn't
19.
find that. Would you send it again?
Absolutely.
I'm sure I have it. I just can't find it.
We'll get it to you.
Mark, Bob Beasley for the record. On the dinghy dock, once Bellingham is done and everything's on site, is this like a few day process you feel to install it, or is it like a week or two?
I can't see it taking more than a week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
The pile installation part, there's going to be 4 timber piles for the fixed timber that the gangway will be attached to. And then there's 3 steel pipe piles that will support the actual floating dock, and that's going to be the most intensive portion of it. Once they get the piles in, which let's say that takes 2 days, the framing of that little dock, it's only 6 by 8. It's not very big, so that'll be a day.
Just
And
float the rest in and
they'll
hook it
have
up.
probably, I don't want to speak for them, but their yards across the other side of
Yeah.
the pass, they'll probably assemble it over there and then just tow it into place and connect it. So
Okay.
then setting of the gangway, like I said, I think it's going to be a week, 10 days at the most.
I have spoken with Kelly Brothers, and that's exactly how they intended on doing it, building it in their yard and then pulling it over.
So during that period of time, there will be no dinghy dock for a week to 10 days. So we need to figure out an alternative for the people who are in the field right now to be able to pull up somewhere and still do their daily activities and not disrupt them.
Sam, for the record, maybe we need to make some arrangements with Matanzas, or is there any other alternatives? Because they're going to have to come in somewhere, during that time.
We'll come up with some options. We've toyed around with a couple different ideas.
Maybe the Snug Harbor, anything in the vicinity, maybe we can make some arrangements.
Okay, anything?
What next? Have any other questions that I can answer for you? Okay, great.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for coming.
On top of everything else, we went ahead and been working with the Lee County Sheriff's Department, asked them to come and attend the meetings as well, just to kind of get a connection of what's going on in the field as far as the derelict vessels and any enforcement that's going on the water around the island as well. We work close with Officer Galloway and Officer Daly, and they've informed me, they keep working all the derelict vessels. It is a timely process, but the areas are improving, and this area right here seems to be one of the worst areas in the county. So it's a problem, but I think moving forward with getting the land lease on the bottom and stuff like that, it's really going to clean that area up.
And jumping on that, the town has received $25,000 from WCIND with a $25,000 match by the town for next fiscal year. That agreement's been signed and sent to Lee County. It's being put in the budget. And so that should be adopted on Monday evening at 5:01.
And I've had to fight for that at practically every meeting because they keep leaving it out of the budget. And Austin, I didn't know if you wanted to introduce Officer Daly?
Oh, yeah. Officer Daly, she's usually who we work in contact with out there. She can probably answer any questions that you might have of what's really going on with these derelict vessels or anything really going on in the Back Bay or around the island. So it's Officer Daly.
Welcome.
Morning.
Any questions, Jan, about what's going on? You just want me to give you a general idea?
Yeah, maybe tell us how many you think we've got out there and what's going on with them.
Well, I have
derelict?
a lot of ongoing cases right now that I'm working. It takes a lot of time to work it through the court system. So we have, finished this, I guess the people have been found guilty. Then it has to go on to the next process, and it all takes a lot of time. But we do have quite a few ongoing cases. I go to court weekly on them, just so you know.
This is outside the mooring field, though.
Correct. It's
In the
front of
areas
Coast
around.
Guard Station, past the mooring field, and also both sides of Hurricane Pass.
Okay.
Well, do you know what was going on last night? Their helicopter was flying all over the place.
There was a missing 8-year-old, I'm Sergeant Galloway, by the way, with the Sheriff's Office. There was a missing 8-year-old last night. 8-year-old child threw a temper tantrum on Estero Boulevard and decided to jump out of the car and run along the beach. So it took about 3 hours to find, and he found another little child to play with over in Washington. And so we take those very, very seriously. So everybody and the mother was out last night, including 3 of my Marine units, the aviation unit, and every zone unit that we could muster up last night. So one thing I wanted to touch along the lines with Sue's investigations, what we're starting to incorporate now, a couple of judges, Judge Gagliardi, a couple of the other judges are finally seeing the damage this does to not only the public safety, but the environment itself, as well as the water, the clarity of the water, the just general cleanliness, period, of Fort Myers Beach. In addition to the Fort Myers Beach derelict vessels, we are averaging anywhere from 5 to 9 new cases a week. We just, I don't know if you saw, NBC2 or Wink did a story a couple of weeks ago about 9 derelict sailboats that are stuck over the mangroves off of St. James City. Those vessels are sunk, those vessels are leaking litter into the water, and that is in addition to what she's doing here. She's also going over there and dealing with that. So we're getting anywhere from 5 to 9 boats per week. And we have a procedure that we're implementing. We've never had in the Sheriff's Office a policy on what do we do with all these boats. But because we're getting so many new cases over the last year, the Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff said, let's get something implemented in place so we have a standard operating procedure when it comes to these derelict vessels. So for the last 6 months, we've actually been putting together that SOP, and she's been just absolutely, she's my pit bull. She is just relentless on these. The problem is we're doing, it's not necessarily the problem, but we're successfully issuing tickets, and if we can't find the individuals that own these vessels, we actually identify them through records, and we request the state attorney's office to issue summons to mandatory appearances in court. Now, over the last 3 months, we've had several successful convictions on these. And what the judges are starting to do, Judge Gagliardi and a couple of the other judges, they're implementing the cost of the cleanup as part of their probation. For example, a well-known citizen on Fort Myers Beach, Mr. Ricky Hamilton, he had 2 derelict vessels. These 2 derelict vessels, one is sunk behind the mooring field, and another one was, what was the other one?
Far from there, yeah, on
so,
the sandbar near the island.
Mr. Hamilton, we gave him every opportunity to clean these vessels up on his own. He refused. So we are in the process of cleaning. I think we've cleaned up one, right? Or both boats gone now?
No, they're in the process.
Okay.
It takes a long time.
What we have to be careful of in the Sheriff's Office is we have to have essentially a judge's order giving us permission to dispose of these vessels. Because as a right, for example, I'll use you, Mr. Beasley. If I go and your boat is derelict, and I just pull your boat out of the water because it's a hazard to navigation, because it's a sore eye in the community, if we, the Sheriff's Office, as soon as I touch your boat, I am financially and civilly responsible for your boat. So if I pull your boat, even though it's in a derelict condition, and I destroy it, and the community's happy, but you as a boat owner come back and go, hey, what'd you do with my boat? I was getting ready to repair it. I just bought you a brand new boat. So we, as Sheriff's Office, we have to be careful what we do, because we don't want to come back and have to buy a $100,000 boat for somebody. It takes a little bit of time, but what we're doing now is, in the process of these court hearings, we are giving these individuals an opportunity to come and say at the court hearing, I'm taking care of my boat. If they don't show up, then the judge signs or gives us permission to remove that boat within 21 days. That's what we're starting to implement. That's what we're trying to get through the county also. The county has to approve that, as well as our sheriff does too. So far on our side, it's looking like thumbs up. Now the county's just got to go, hey, yeah, we're on board with this. So what the judge is doing now is we're giving them estimates on cleanups. Hey, how much is it going to cost to take that boat out? You would be amazed at how much it is. For Ricky's 2 boats, $19,000. She is taking, the Judge Gagliardi, when he was found guilty, he thought he was just going to pay a couple of fines and walk away. Judge went, hold on. For the cost of that cleanup, it's going to be implemented in your probation, which means you don't get off probation until you pay those fines and you pay up that cleanup. Department of Natural Resources has been getting a regular check lately from Ricky. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to cut the cost down for not only the county, but the state of Florida. Why should it be our fault? Why should we be responsible for cleaning their mess up? We have a diligence to the public, but I honestly think even if they pay 75% of what it costs, even half, 50%, that would eliminate some of the costs for the county, for the state, for cleanup. So that's kind of what we're doing right now, just kind of giving you a heads up on what we, oh, sure, go ahead.
I just want to let you all know that before it goes to the court system, I give them so many chances. I give them months, sometimes 10 months of them telling me they're going to work on it. And so these are ongoing, and it's such a long process only because I'm giving them the opportunity to fix it before, it gets to the court system, because the court system also gives them that opportunity. So I just want to let you know that they're getting a huge opportunity to take care of it before we reach the end, which is the probation and the restitution. And I just want to let you all know that we're giving them such a big opportunity to do this.
I'm glad to hear that the judges are putting that cost onto the person that caused the problem. I think once that happens a few times, possibly that'll spread around the boating community that they're not going to get out of it. They are going to pay for it, so.
Well, we've also developed so many new cases over the last couple of months that our leniency is running thin. We're like, you got 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, if it's not taken care of, we're citations right then and there. If it's not taken care of after another 21 days of that, then we start developing a criminal investigation on it and taking it to court. They're starting to pile up so much around the county that we got to do something. I mean, it's an endangerment to the environment. It's a navigable hazard. When stuff starts floating off these boats, they can become objects that people can hit with their boats. It's just, we're catching up with it. We're starting to enforce these a lot more serious than we have over the last couple of years, and the judges are finally getting it. State Attorney's Office is, Judge Gagliardi, for example, when we presented this case to her, she literally looked at the paper, looked at us and goes, "Are you serious? This is how much it's going to cost?" Yes, ma'am. This is cheap.
Yeah.
The 9 vessels that we're looking at, that we're investigating right now over in St. James City, the cleanup cost alone is $82,000. Whose pocket is that going to come out of? The counties? Is that going to come out of the states? I believe it should come out of the person that decided to dump those boats over there.
Agree. Well, that's good. Thank you.
Well, any questions for us? You guys got anything for us?
Thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Now we're getting ready for boat races. So, on the top of everything, we're getting ready for boat races. So.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so thanks, guys.
Thank you. Before we leave Mooringfield staff report, we did get the occupancy and revenue. I was wondering, I couldn't get to the bar graph and the yearly comparisons.
Doesn't exist yet.
It does exist. Yeah, there's different tabs on the bottom.
I tried.
It's
This
not
is-
been updated for the last.
This is all I got.
That's not true. I've been working on it. I've updated it myself personally.
I
found errors actually in formulas, so.
If you can tell me what tab to click, because I tried about everything I
one
could
that was
figure out
sent
on
out-
mine. So,
I will be more than happy to show you at my computer
Okay.
after
yeah,
the meeting.
because I couldn't get it to come up.
I followed it pretty closely. I'm wondering if we got the wrong edition that didn't have your corrections on it.
Probably, because I've been working on it the last,
Yeah.
Yeah,
2
because I-
weeks.
Yeah.
I think that it's the one we got didn't have the updates on
I
it.
will send that along with
Okay.
the diagram for.
Now, why don't you send
the
that, and then
expansion.
if I can't get it, then when we meet, I'll
Yep.
figure it out.
That's
Well, I have updated it all onto one of the former ones, and I have the graph for the yearly occupancy up to this year. So looking over the graph, what I see is that this year has been a little behind the last year or two until about May, where it fell further behind the last year. I spoke to Austin about what this might be, and we couldn't figure out anything, but maybe some word of mouth that's left over from last year that we have had a drop off, a little more than average drop off since for the month of May, June, July, and August. So that's the
Okay.
graph.
So I want to jump on this real quick. I've been going through the spreadsheet that has been passed down, I don't even know how many times, and how many hands have touched it. I have found some formulas that are inconsistent. I've updated those. And in regards to trying to get the actual numbers of expenditures spent on the mooring field, there is a tab on this Excel sheet, and I've struggled with it because it shows the revenue and expenditures. But the problem with the expenditures is it's all-inclusive. So when we redid Hercules and Coconut and put docks there, that's included. So, and another caveat is the WCIND grant is a reimbursable grant. And so on this spreadsheet, the revenue shows what the contracted rate was. Well, we may not have expended all of that contracted money. So I'm trying to get some numbers from finance of fiscal year expenditures and literally going line item by line item. So it's time consuming, but I will try to get you an update at the next meeting to continue furthering this discussion.
Ad didn't have this year on the graphs.
Okay.
So we obviously got the wrong one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anything further on?
Yes. Sam, for the record, any delinquencies, Austin, or any slow payers?
Yeah, we have a couple delinquencies in the field and a couple of questionables, what's going on in the field. We did have another death in the field they didn't pass away in the field, but the owner passed away. So the property was left in the field, and there is a discrepancy going on with the ownership of the boat at this time. So I've turned over some legal papers to our legal team to kind of speed up the process on how the process goes to obtain liens on these vessels and to move forward with putting liens on the vessels. I spoke with the harbor master, Brian, with Fort Myers, and he emailed me the paperwork that they use when this same situation happens in their field. So it's a pretty streamlined process, but we just got to apply it. So, and it's situations like this that we need to question if we want to apply that, or how do we want to go about going something like this. As far as, and discrepancies of ownership and things like that while the vessel sits in our field,
You know whether there's errors or anything?
At this time, I haven't heard any
Okay.
updates on it so far, so I've got to get a for sure answer on that.
Did you get anything like in writing from him, or was it just a phone conversation with the harbor master from Fort Myers about their procedures?
Yeah, I got all of the paperwork that they use.
Can you forward that to us
Yeah.
so we can kind of take a look at what they do?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just the format that the state.
Okay.
It's the state.
I'd be
format.
interested just to know kind of
Yeah, okay,
what they do.
absolutely.
Aside from that guy, anybody slow payers more than a couple months?
I wouldn't say more than a couple months, no.
Anything further on mooring field and staff report? Any other questions?
I have a
Yes.
housekeeping item.
Okay.
Gregory Holmes, Kubitschek, and Ratliff, yes, are all up for reappointment. So you must get
They're not
three
here.
people
Not
who are
here.
here. Okay.
They're not
Well,
here.
if any of you speak to them that they are up for reappointment, it has to be turned in by the 27th.
Do they get, we used to get something from Michelle.
This is your warning, and I've sent it in emails to you all too.
Oh,
So-
we've already gotten it from you.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, yep, on the 27th is the absolute deadline
Okay.
for reappointment. If not, it'll be open to the public for, any new.
Okay.
I have one more for staff. On the flyer, it looks great, except, I think we talked about this before, it has no channel 16 or anything on there. We just have a phone number and,
So,
Yeah.
let me jump. I've provided you all this because there's a part we're talking about advertising. I've provided you the quote, which has been incorporated in the budget. It's no longer an add-on. Council decided that last year. I provided you the ad, which is what we've put out, but also Winston Fowler gave an abundance of information of additional advertising and offers that they're giving the town. this is the opportunity to update this. If we want to change the color, the font, you name it, like you said, we can add channel 16 on it. I can email it to you if you would like to update it yourself, and we can bring it back at the next meeting. But it's your time to shine and make your edits.
Well, regarding the Channel 16 or anything, we've got people from Matanzas here, so if we want to have a discussion, we could find out if they're monitoring how many people are calling in, how many people don't have cell phones. I know pretty much everyone has them now, but I don't know if they're running into anybody that doesn't have them. And this is the way we've been doing it for quite a while. We haven't had Channel 16 on any of our ads, I don't think. The people that don't have phones probably assume that that's how they do it, but I'm not sure how much they're monitoring it in the office either. Maybe Austin knows better on that.
Yeah, every time I go in, the radio's on, so, I mean, it's on. But as far as the usage of radio, cell phones seem to be the way to go anymore. So the radio's kind of there for, you know, just
secondary.
hailing or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. But as far as that goes, whenever we do get hailed on the radio, our operating is channel 10. I think that Matanzas has that channel reserved, so that's the operating channel that we do use.
Is
when
that,
we
is
are
it on the
operating.
sign out there, the mooring field sign?
Yeah,
Is there?
channel 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we want to, what do you want to do
I
with
don't,
this?
I don't think I don't think it necessarily would need to be changed unless there was some
I have
reason.
no problem adding channel 16 to the communication section of this.
Well,
That's what the community
this is
so
probably the
chooses.
preferred, way is going to be by the cell phone. So if it's on if it's on the sign, I have no problem not having it on the ad.
Well, the only thing that the ad, if they saw it and they were a couple ports up, they would know it already. You could put channel 16/10 if it's 10, that they changed to 10 after 16. Is that what you're saying? I mean,
Can't hurt, right?
it can't hurt.
We'll get it added.
Okay, because I think the rest of it looks fine.
So maybe on the very bottom part that's in black with the white letters, we could do the phone number and then channel 16/10 and maybe just move that, the fmbgov.com
I'll play with it.
above it. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Come up to the mic
Yeah,
if
come
you're
on
gonna
up.
talk, though. And identify yourself. Not that we don't know who you are, but our transcription.
Matanzas in. I wouldn't put Channel 10 on there because
Okay.
we only monitor the 16 and then have them go to 10.
Okay,
So
just
if they're
16.
trying to call on 10, we won't hear them.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yep, thanks.
And that's the universal contact channel anyway.
I mean, most people know that anyway, but
No, most people know 16, and
If they're-
and when they see it, they'll know that's the contact channel.
We have placed a comment box at Matanzas.
Okay.
I think we've received 4 comments, maybe 3, I don't recall.
All complimentary.
2 were, well, it's a comment box, so I mean, we want their feedback regarding additional services we should add, et cetera. 2 comments have praised Matanzas for their service. 1 has, suggested ice. And I know, I had met with Chris, this summer, and he was working on, potentially getting, an ice contract. Chris, I don't know if you want to speak to that?
I talked to Metro Ice, and we finally got something worked out. Actually, it's going to be a vending machine ice that they actually pre-bag. Works by credit card. I'm going to put it right down by the water station next to the bait shop. And I'm just waiting for him to bring it now. So we got the power turned on over there. It's ready to go. So, yeah, it's pretty slick.
great,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Hopefully, we can get that in before season.
Ice is very important, it's true. Yes, yes. Anything Anything further? My notes are going clear down the page here from the mooring field and staff report, but that's okay. We've actually, I think, really Mark really brought us up to date on the dinghy dock, so we've really looked at that already. Unless anybody else has any more comments on that part, we pretty much know what's happening there. Expansion of the mooring field update, he pretty much did that too. And, my recollection from my report too, is we voted to go ahead with all that they're doing, but not necessarily expanding the dinghy dock, the mooring field yet, because we do have issues with the services that we have for what we have now, essentially. But it takes a couple years to do all of that, so if we want to do it in the future, then it will be there if we decide. So anything further on that? Upland service provider update. Do we have any?
Care to
Update?
provide an update?
No?
I know that the contract is up for renewal in December.
Okay.
Been busy with budget, so I haven't necessarily had the time to jump on that just yet. But of course, I believe that has to go to town council for the renewal.
Advertise for that?
No, this is the third year of the contract, I believe, if renewed. But after that, this time next year, we would be looking at bidding it out. We're required to bid it out.
Yes. Okay. Do you have anything, Ted? No? Anybody?
Sure?
He
You want to?
He looked like it.
I was just thinking that this, we don't have any competing situation at this time, so it's just a matter of going on with what we have, and we're not, we've been talking about all these other options, and I assume those are on hold for this, for the year?
It was my understanding that it needed to be vetted through you all prior, and so I'm trying to get those numbers together.
Right.
Like I told you earlier, it's been a little difficult, but right now, timing and personnel and season and the dinghy dock and everything else that plays in hand, it would be my recommendation to the town manager to renew, but
Be my personal hope that that's the way we're going and we don't get mired in the other direction. So, thank you.
Well, yeah, we were just starting to look at it and trying to get some figures together and see if it was feasible, and we're not really anywhere near doing any of that. So if we would go that direction.
Yeah, that won't be a factor for the next couple months.
Or even longer than that,
yeah.
I think, so.
At least not the December renewal.
Okay, anything further on that? Budget 9. We have some budget stuff here that was sent out to us, if I can find it. I have too many papers here.
your budget sheet should look like this.
Yep, I have it.
This is what is being presented to town council.
Okay.
It may have been updated since I sent this to you from our finance director. I would hope it would have been updated with the 25,000. So I'm sure this has changed, but so you can see generally what we're proposing.
Is that law enforcement supposed to be the 25,000 and 25,000? Because it
Yes.
says 0.
It will be.
So it's supposed to be-
I'm told it will be updated.
So it should read 50,000.
50, yes.
Okay. That's what I kind of gathered. I just had some questions, I guess. Because there are a lot of figures that, like, there's retirement in there now. There's a retirement line that never was. Overtime, there's no overtime. The wages, like, doubled in this one. Repairs halved. I mean, I guess I'm very confused about how we get, we have repairs and maintenance for facilities, $129,000 last year, $8,000 this year?
Okay, let me explain that.
don't get it.
So that 129,000 is the docks that were built. So Coconut and Hercules.
Oh, okay.
So again, this is all inclusive of anything waterway related. So
That makes it so tough to really know what's going on.
I've been told, though, a little bit of my research that I've done is
Okay.
the revenue generated from the field has its own revenue line item, which is called harbor usage fees.
Okay.
So that is clearly identified, but the expenditures is a whole different ballgame. So the personnel, the wages and overtime and FICA, retirement, health, all of that, our finance director is responsible for plugging in those numbers. From what I've discussed with him, he's trying to take I believe 50% of Austin's salary to plug it in there. But that was at the last conversation I've had with him. I would hope that our maintenance numbers go down since we're installing all of these brand new systems. So, and I know Austin and his team, I believe all of them have, is that true? All of the beach staff have, within the last year, obtained their scuba certification. And so they've really been able to take the funding that we were outsourcing to coastal engineering in-house. So they've done a very good job at that. So you'll see some over the years where some numbers have gone down. The contracted service line item is strictly Matanzas. That's what is projected. And then the rest is kind of just status quo of maintenance of the field and the odds and ends that Austin may need. Now, Austin kind of touched on it. Our pump out boat's 3 years old. The motor is, from what we've got, 2 different diagnoses that it's shot. I wanted 2 opinions on it, so it's going to be a hefty little price that's going to hit our capital fund here within the next week. So it's ranging price. Quotes are coming in $11,000 to $14,000 for a new motor. We're trying to run on it now. As soon as I walk out of here, I got to go look and see if I got the 3rd quote to make it happen. So we're going to be sending out a small notice to Matanzas, and Austin will be distributing it to the field, just notifying that the pump out boat should be down, 7 to 10 days. It's already been out a week, so people will have to make other accommodations to have their boat pumped out in the meantime. So it just comes with doing the job.
Are we issuing credits or anything, or?
It wasn't there would be no credit. Their pump out ticket would still be good.
Just be delayed?
It's just delayed, yeah. So, but again, pricing and timing is 2 factors we're considering with these quotes. And of course, it's our intention to get it back in the water as soon as possible.
While we're on the budget and Rexanne's here, thanks for coming. You said it's going to get voted on at 5:01. I'm assuming this is probably going to be a consent thing, or do you think it'll be brought up?
Oh, I think the meeting starts at 5:01. There's
Yeah,
going to be some discussion before the vote actually takes place. Although we have had 2 meetings where we've discussed the budget already. So if you listen to this one, you may not find as many questions as you might expect, because we actually had the opportunity to review a preliminary budget that was given to us in July. And we had lots of discussion about that. And then we had the first budgetary meeting already where this was gone over. So there may not be as many questions this time. It may be a pretty quick vote.
Thank you.
Having kept up with the budget, the income is really tracking very nicely with your figures, and that looks very nice. I wonder, we've taken off the expense that went to coastal engineering. Have we put on the expense that all the dive team and other help that we get from other areas for the mooring field?
That would only fall within personnel and operating supplies, which was incorporated for this current fiscal year and next fiscal year. Like they need dive gear, they need air, masks, all the PPE, personal protective equipment, all of that really, this was our transition year. So I think Austin and his team are skilled, and I mean, you can speak to that.
Yeah, we're all fully geared and we're fully capable of taking on all the duties that Kincaid was doing at that time. And as well, we still use Kincaid as far as a, informational reference for whatever we need. Anything that is in question, we'll go right to the engineer himself and get the answer or solution to whatever the problem may be. So it's not like we're totally up on our own. We are still under guidance.
And to answer directly, at this point, it's that gear and personnel.
Personnel is in the expense budget somewhere.
It's here.
Yeah.
And how internally we have our department set up is they track their hours on a daily log, which is then reported to an Excel sheet, which then is then reported to finance, which they're not too happy with, but I like to see true numbers of where we spend our time.
Okay, so we can count on this as being reflective of expenses more than in the past?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I asked for, when I did the report to council, I asked for like $2,400 for advertising and all of that stuff in the spring. Pretty much going with the figures that Chelsea gave me for what we'd done before. So I hope for our committee to be able to function.
That is incorporated in the budget.
And that's incorporated in there.
I'm sorry, I have to leave.
Okay.
But please don't hesitate to email me if you have any questions, concerns, comments, give me a call. Anything operationally about the field, please speak to Austin, but I'll be sure to get you the items promised at this meeting very soon.
Have we gone ahead with the advertising, with contracting for that?
We're on a purchasing freeze until October 1st. As
Okay.
soon as October 1st hits, we'll issue a PO and make it
Okay.
happen. That's why I wanted you all to review the ad.
Okay, thanks.
Chelsea, you can correct me, but I think the allocation of funding for the committees isn't on this sheet. It's under council on a separate page.
For the advertisement,
No, that like CellCab gets so much money, AAC gets so much money. I think that's allocated in the council budget rather than on the maritime budget.
yes, but it's twofold. So there's the advertising, which last year council said that's operational. That's part
Okay.
of having the
That
field.
was separated out.
But then there's the Cruisers Appreciation Day, which I believe is what you're referencing on
Right.
the add-on.
Right. Just so that you know that your expenses are considered part of council expenses. All the committees are.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So anything else on the budget?
Good.
Okay. All right. So, advertising, and we just got, October 1st, we have Cruisers Net. I don't see anything here for
Southwinds.
Southwinds, but I'm assuming that's going ahead too, then. Austin,
on
do you
that,
know
uh,
about Southwinds?
Before we send out anything, we'll go ahead and check off everything off the list before we do send it out. Like she said, everything's on a freeze at this point. So before we do move forward, I'll go ahead and make sure Southwinds is on there.
So our 2,400 should cover both of them then, right? 'Cause
Should.
this one's only 1,080.
Yeah.
And then
Well, I think
forget
there
what
was,
Southwinds was.
If I can find my budget, that essentially my budget was including Cruisers Appreciation Day and advertising. I mean, that's what I asked.
And usually what we do with the Southwinds is we either run it 1 month longer or shorter, depending on how much money we have, right?
I asked for 1,100 for Southwinds, 1,000 for Cruisers Net, and
we got
300
more.
for,
Oh.
and we got,
We got
And then-
2,600 in
yeah,
the
and then
budget.
300 for Cruisers Appreciation Day. Yeah. So, oh, I put that in the wrong place, okay. Anything more on advertising? We've kind of talked about the banner, or whatever you want to call it, little advertising thing. Updated that. Anything else? Cruisers Appreciation Day.
Cruisers Appreciation Day. Usually, we wait until November or so to pick a date, so why don't I meet with Chris in the next month or two, or maybe before next meeting, we'll pull out a calendar and see what's best for them and give them the first shot and maybe an optional date. So I'll meet with him this month and bring it back for next month. Yeah, see if we can secure Scotty Bryant. Gotta
He's
have
always
Scotty.
there, I know.
Gotta have Scotty.
Okay. Members' items and reports. Bob, do you have anything?
No, nothing at this time.
Okay. Ted?
I have noted that we're having this the powerboat races, and I've offered my vessel for marshaling out there. Apparently, the oversight of that is being done by the Yacht Club and the Power Squadron. I have wondered if I know they've been having meetings on a regular basis. I'm wondering if there is any command structure set up for that. I haven't heard about it yet. I'm wondering if there's any knowing who's going to be an instant commander or whatever for that operation. I wonder if the sheriff's office knows.
Funny you mention that. My lieutenant is in a meeting as we speak with the United States Coast Guard, getting the finalized plans for everything. We're getting stuff last minute. The sheriff's office, our boats are going to be in charge of the beach, from east of the beach to the exterior perimeter of the actual race. We are not going to have anything to do with interior garage or pits. But the U.S. Coast Guard is having a meeting with my lieutenant as we speak on this, on finalized plans, incident command. Sounds like Coast Guard's going to be incident command. Don't quote me on that, but like I said, in a meeting right now, and before I leave, if I can get somebody's email address, we can kind of get you up to date on what's going on.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll speak to you. You gonna be here afterward?
Oh, yes, sir, I'll wait
Okay.
around.
Okay, check. Thank you.
Anything else?
The slow zone extension. Whether we recall the discussion from the last meeting, we were discussing the fact that with the 100-foot wide channel out here with no wake or speed restrictions, whether we might be able to extend the slow zone off of Bowditch Point out a little bit in order to have everybody not collide. This came to me through the Coast Guard Auxiliary and Coast Guard about an individual who had their arm broken while trying to dodge through the wake there. And I have been in contact with Leslie Haynes of the county, and getting those extended takes an awful lot of effort. It's kind of like the rules are set up so one can't get speed zones extended. I would like, if possible, if the committee is interested in this matter, to invite Ms. Haynes to our meeting to explain to us what we might do to extend that slow zone. It's really a mess. One big boat comes through there with a wake, and you got 6 or 8 little boats. They can't control their own direction, and they may or may not get swamped, but they certainly get tossed about. And I'm wondering if the committee is interested in following up on this matter, and if they are, if we could have the Lee County person who's responsible for this visit with us. Anybody have any feelings whether this is something we should get into?
Well, I have, Bob Beasley for I have mixed feelings because I'm ready to go by the time I get to Pink Shell. I'm ready to hammer down. So that, I don't want to have to idle for another 10 minutes or 5 minutes around the corner or whatever. I mean, I know there's a safety issue, but at some point, you can't fix stupid. I mean,
Well, having a sailboat and going out through there, we get waked regularly. But the other thing is, it's kind of outside of our purview as the Anchorage Advisory Committee. I mean, I understand it's an issue, but I'm not really sure it's something that pertains to what our committee does.
I have an opinion on it also. Being a sailboat, you get hit with some wakes, or being a former sailboat. However, like Bob said, the rule is you're responsible for your wake. And, you got to use some common sense when you see another little boat there. You can't just throw a 6-foot wake. And that goes with anywhere you are. You're responsible for your wake in general. So I'm not sure that's part of our thing. We could look at it, I guess, but I'm not sure that's in our jurisdiction at all.
Okay,
But good comment.
I understand. Unfortunately, you're quite right. They're responsible. There are too many irresponsible, and they're only 1 in 50 or something. But it only takes one to cause damage. But I'll drop the matter at this time.
And on that note, the 1 in 50, the sign probably won't make a difference.
Austin Gilchrist. I'll go ahead and invite Leslie, because there's a lot of things going on with the no wake and the slow zones within the island itself going on right now. So I think that I'll go ahead and invite her for the next meeting, and she'll explain what's going on exactly with all the slow zones and no wake zones that we have marked in our area. And then if you guys want to ask her any questions on the extension of any federal, any extension of any no wake zones, she'll explain it to you. Why we can and can't do things like that. But as of right now, they're removing all the no wake zones and then turning them into slow zones. So we really don't have any no wake zones on the island anymore. Everything's just slow zones from here on out, in manatee zones. Does that make sense? Okay.
What does the slow zone mean?
Not an idle. It still is, idle would be just at speed to control the vessel, but slow zone's just a slow operating speed.
Bow not raised.
Yeah.
That would be excellent, and that's what we were after, was slow zone, not
No wake
idle.
zones, yeah.
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay. Any public comment? Okay, set agenda for next meeting, and our next meeting would be October
16th.
16th.
And just to let you know, I will be out of town, so I will miss seeing you.
Oh, that's sad. But have fun,
Thank you.
hopefully.
I'm finally going on summer vacation in October.
There you go. It's a good thing. Any suggestions? I think we can have updates on all this stuff, essentially, I guess.
Probably leave it the same.
Just leave the
Agenda.
agenda the same. Do we need to add anything in that we don't have in there? Probably not. Okay, then we'll adjourn. It is 10:01.
Sam, move to adjourn.
Second, Lowell.
All in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Nice succinct meeting. I wasn't sure, having not met for months, but thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, man.
Do you want want to change it?
No, no.
Kenny Tucker, Coast Guard, is going to be.
And I will meet with
Oh, good, okay. I know
Chelsea
him.
and get the minutes out, send them out.
Yeah, I know Kenny, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be the.
Yeah, for the auxiliary, and
I'll send an
we
email
were
out to our members
not
that
in
work
this
here,
loop
remind
up until
them.
this point.
Because we don't have to
Kenny
vote
wasn't,
for
as
that.
far as I
mean,
can tell.
That's not a voting issue.
Right, they
Just they need to be,
and
I
get
know.
approved by
Yeah.
council.
yeah,
So,
by the 27th, is that what she said?
We need to, in that email, why don't you remind them about calling in
Well,
unexcused?
you know, I think actually, and I don't know, I'll
I
ask your
offered my vessel,
opinion,
apparently
because
30
Greg
people
sent an
have offered
email
the
out to
vessel
all of
help,
us
but there's no
that he was
structure.
unable to be here.
And I
Is
don't know
that
what they're gonna do. You're gonna say
inappropriate?
that y'all are gonna take the,
Because then, if that happened, I mean, Mike apparently got in touch with Chelsea, that he wasn't gonna be here. But we don't have any idea then if there's gonna be a quorum or not.
If there's not going to be a quorum, Chelsea should probably notify you, is
Right.
how it should work.
Right.
So we need to make sure that everybody, if they're